final word on your super chat here. If Death Stranding 2 is not running on the PS5 Pro, what we saw of it already, then we are seeing, in my opinion, not the beginnings. I think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Demon Souls were the beginnings of like, here's what this console can do, but we're still not there yet. Death Stranding 2, if that was captured on a base PS5, now we are seeing, oh, okay, now they're really honing in on what the PS5 can actually do. Because again, I just would encourage anybody who hasn't seen that Death Stranding trailer or hasn't watched it in a while, go back and specifically skip to the parts where it shows zoomed out shots of gameplay of Sam traversing the world. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So I don't mean to, I'm not trying to over-exaggerate. It's just I really think that Kojima is going to be the first one with Decima. We saw what Horizon Forbidden West looks like on the PS5 as a cross-gen, or even with the DLC that came out, which was PS5 only. Decima engine looks insane. Kojima, I think, is getting ready to ramp it up a notch. We have Colt Hunter using his milestone chat to simply say, okay. Okay, Colt Hunter, thank you for that. Mark Tech with a super chat says, Death Stranding 2 will look like that on the PS5 Pro, but at 60 FPS. Yeah. I think you're correct. I think we are going to see, when Death Stranding 2 comes out, because I think what we saw, if it was on the base PS5, it was obviously at 30 FPS. That's the fidelity mode on the PS5. But there will likely be a performance mode for Death Stranding 2 on the base PS5 where you can run it at 60, but it's going to look like the fidelity is going to be significantly reduced. It's exactly right, Mark. That's what the PS5 Pro is going to do. It's going to take games like Death Stranding 2 and say, you see how amazing this game looks like and how it looks in fidelity mode? You can get that basically fidelity performance mode is essentially what it's going to do. And I can't wait, man, because that sounds awesome. Death Stranding is a GPU heavy game. I'm assuming it is. If I'm not mistaken, Death Stranding Director's Cut runs at 60 FPS on the PS5, right? Can somebody confirm this for me? The one says yes. Jakey Steve says 120. Does it go up to 120? I don't remember. Yeah, I would assume at minimum it can run at 60. It probably still looks pretty good too. So yeah, that would confirm it. That would confirm that the engine is able to, scale to 60 on the PS5. Well, then again, yeah, it's the Decima engine, of course. Duh. I don't know why that didn't click a moment ago. Yeah, it's a Decima engine. So yeah, if any game is going to be able to show, like, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the main games we see shown off on the PS5 Pro, like one of the first games, is Death Stranding 2. Because if there's any game that's using an engine that's going to be able to really do some crazy stuff on the Pro, it's going to be the Decima engine with Death Stranding 2. But I want to move on to the second part of this conversation about the PS5 Pro. And this is not so much about the specifications are still going to be part of the conversation, but this is more about what developers are reportedly saying about the PS5 Pro. Again, we covered this, in yesterday's video, but I want to talk about it more in depth here. And before we go over this article and report from WCCF Tech, guys, do me a favor. We are sitting at 132 likes. Please take a moment of your time, hit that like button. It really helps the streams out. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. We could easily crush 150 likes right now. Maybe we can get up to 175. I'd really appreciate that. The PlayStation 5 Pro has no reason for happening, as some developers feel they still have to make the most of the base model. As reported by GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring in a recent podcast, PlayStation 5 users will upgrade to a new system, but some developers told him during GDC 2024 that they don't feel the need for it, as they have to make the most out of the base model. Additionally, some companies feel the mid-gen refresh isn't going to grow the market significantly, as it feels like the current generation has yet to start, rendering the need for a mid-gen refresh null. These are definitely interesting statements considering how many PS5 games struggle to hit 60 frames per second in performance mode with recent visual quality. It says while the PlayStation 5 Pro won't offer a bigger jump in CPU performance, likely to allow easier backward compatibility with the PlayStation 6, which is actually something I didn't talk to you guys about, by the way. People who are more familiar with the engineering side of Sony have actually come out and said that the main driving reason why the CPU in the PS5 Pro is going to be pretty much exactly the same is actually for backward compatibility reasons with the PlayStation 6. Because apparently Sony has a very specific and kind of complicated way of handling backwards compatibility, and the CPU plays like a major role in that. And so, yeah, I forgot to mention that, and this article brought that up. But it says the mid-gen system is rumored to offer a significant uplift in rendering and ray tracing performance. Additionally, the console will support PSSR, and the brand new upscaler will eventually being the keyword, support 8K resolutions. Now, this is what I want to talk to you guys about. The idea of developers at GDC talking to Christopher Dring and saying, don't really see the need for a PS5 Pro. We haven't really tapped into the base PS5 yet. I find this a little bit strange. Cuddy Can't Hang, a member for 10 months, says, what are the chances a surprise new first-party game launches with the PS5 Pro as a bundle? Well, it depends on what you mean when you say a new first-party game. Are you talking about a major AAA title, like I guess what we would consider like a banger, right? Like a AAA banger? Or are you just talking about anything from any PlayStation studio? Because if you're talking about a major AAA banger, if that, Cuddy, you're saying that is what you're talking about, I'm going to say the chances are very, very low. And I don't mean to be such a buzzkill. I just think I'm being realistic in that Sony already told their shareholders that they don't really have any major franchise games coming. Now, I know what you're thinking, Cuddy and many others. I know what you're thinking, but what about new IP? And I hear you. I hear you. But it's not time yet. These games, there's no new IP in development at PlayStation Studios that will be ready to launch this year. AAA IP, that is. That's, is Ben Studios' game going to be ready? No. Is Santa Monica's game going to be ready? No. Is Naughty Dog's game going to be ready? No. Is Bluepoint's game going to be ready? Probably not. I'm going to say no. Housemarque's new IP, not ready. Well, okay, yeah. Concord, yes. But I guess I speak for a lot of people when I say I don't think Concord is like the game that comes to people's mind. Could we get a Concord bundle? Maybe, yeah. And yeah, to be fair, Concord is a new AAA IP. It's very different. It's just very different than I guess what we would normally expect. And so I'm gonna say, here's what you can expect with the PS5 Pro. I think we will get a new first-party game, and I think it's gonna be Astro. I think in the same way that Astro's Playroom launched with the PS5 Pro, the PS5 to show off, hey, here's what the PS5 can do, here's what the DualSense can do. I think it makes perfect sense for Sony to come out and be like, here's the second Astro game. However, I think the difference is that the new Astro game is not going to be free. It's going to be a full game that you pay for, but it's going to be super optimized for the PS5 Pro. And I know that sounds silly, like, wait, they're going to use Astro to show off how good the PS5 Pro can run? Maybe. It'll just be one of many games. But I think that will be like here's Team Asobi, a first-party studio, here's one of our first-party mascots, and here's a game that's launching with this new console that we're releasing. And it'll be on PS5 as well, and maybe even PSVR 2. You don't think it will sell millions? Probably not. No. I mean, it could surprise everybody. I do want to say, if you played Astro's Playroom, phenomenal game, man. Phenomenal game. Like, it's up there with, I think, some of the best. I don't really play platformers, but, from what people have told me who do play a lot of platformers and who do play like a lot of Nintendo games, are like, dude, Astro's Playroom is like top tier. It's like Sony kind of showing that they can kind of do a little bit of Nintendo over here, just a little bit. And I think that that's something Sony should try to lean into. And I think like Astro could be Sony's own, kind of, just more, I don't want to say like kid friendly, but just, just having a basic mascot that can appeal universally and having a game that can appeal more universally to everybody of all ages, right? And I think that them leaning into Astro would be a good idea because, I don't know, will it sell millions? I think it could sell a couple million. Could it be a 10 million seller, a 12 million seller? I mean, I think one day it could, maybe, yeah. If they really focused up on it, yeah, I think it could be. But I don't think it's there yet. And so, Cuddy, I guess I'm trying to say I would expect something like that at the launch of the PS5 Pro. I would expect something like Until Dawn remake or remaster to be like PS5 Pro optimized. I would expect to see Sony leveraging games that have already come out and kind of, hyping them up on the Pro. Like, here's what Horizon Forbidden West looks like on the Pro. Here's what Spider-Man 2, like they'll probably do a big push for Spider-Man 2. Check out PS5 Pro enhanced Spider-Man 2. It's going to look nuts. But I think it's also going to be, the question I have is like, how many second and third party deals does Sony currently have that we don't know about yet that could also be leveraged to show off the PS5 Pro? If it's true, listen, again, I know people want there to be like a major launch title, but I don't think Sony needs that. I would love for them to have that, but I don't think they actually need that. I think what Sony really needs is to have some games there, right? Even if it is like an Astro game and Until Dawn. But what they really need is to show those big games and to basically say, like, look, we're launching the PS5 Pro. Ghost of Tsushima 2 is not going to come out alongside it, but it's coming out like maybe like in the next year or two, and it's going to be fully optimized for it. I'm telling you, I think stuff like that will. I know how this stuff works. I've been following gaming long enough. Trust me. All Sony has to do, and I'm not saying this isn't like, in an arrogant way or, to make it sound like Sony's perfect or anything, or they don't have to do anything. I'm just saying this is the reality of the market. You can judge the market how you feel. But the reality is all Sony has to do is come out and say, here's Ghost of Tsushima 2. By the way, that's running on the PS5 Pro. And it's over. It's over. Like, the PS5 Pro is going to sell out and everybody's hyped for Sony again. Is that all Sony's going to do? No. I'm just pointing out that like this stuff works, I think, differently than the way people kind of construct it in their mind. Where I think in our minds, sometimes we think Sony's got to do this, and that, and only then will people be excited. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Actually take away like 3 of those things, they only have to do half of those things. And if they do half those things, people are going to be fucking thrilled. This has been proven time and time again because it's just the way it works, you know? It's easy, I think, for people to get antsy and maybe frustrated and have these kind of negative feelings towards Sony when they go so long without announcing new first-party games. But in the same way that it's so easy for those people's emotions to become so negative so quickly, it's very easy for their emotions to become very positive very quickly as well. Does that make sense? To whereas most people, not, I don't know if it's most people, but more neutral people, right? More neutral, who are like, I guess you could say, have more stability with this type of stuff. For example, the person that has been saying for the past 2 years and is still saying right now, just give them time. Just be patient. They'll show it when they're ready. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy what you have now. That person is also going to be excited when Sony shows the new stuff, but they're not going to be the person losing their minds. The person that's going to be losing their mind is the person that's been over here being like, Sony, where the fuck is your games? What are you doing? You're dropping, you know, you're dropping the ball here. That's how these things work, man. Carl G says, I'm getting frustrated really waiting. And yeah, I mean, trust me, I pay attention to this stuff closer than 99.9% of people. I'm as eager as anybody else to see Sony come out and hit the ground running and announce some new first-party games. You know, like this is something I've been talking about for a long time now, but I also do understand ultimately that you cannot rush it. You just can't. I think some of the mistakes that Sony's made with live service recently has made it worse, but what I will say is that I still have the same exact confidence in Sony that I did at the start of the PS5 generation when it comes to their games. I just know that right now, most people don't feel that because we haven't seen the games. But I do have that same confidence where dude, like when we see Sucker Punch announce the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, it's going to fucking blow people away. Like hands down. Like Sony knows how to do it better than most. And I don't mean that again in like a fanboyish way. I just think when they are ready to generate the excitement, like when they are ready to do that, they know how to do it. Although I will say, the next showcase we get is going to be the first showcase since the PS5 generation started without Jim Ryan at the helm. So I do just wonder how much different, for better or for worse, it could be. I think after last year, everybody's assuming it will be for better. 30th anniversary show, that'd be incredible. I would love to see that. You're saying, but with a Pro, you wouldn't need to put it into 1440p for FF7 Rebirth to look good. Exactly. What Square could do with the PS5 Pro and FF7 Rebirth is they could run FF7 Rebirth at an internal resolution in performance mode at 1080p, use PSSR to upscale it probably to 4K. Truthfully, they could probably get that game to scale to 4K or very close to it and have it run at 60. And then they could probably throw in some ray tracing at that point. If they were to use PSSR on FF7 Rebirth, they would probably have enough overhead to use some ray tracing. Again, what am I describing? I'm describing fidelity mode running at 60 FPS. That's what I'm describing. Although I don't think does Rebirth actually does it use ray tracing at all? But yeah, the Pro should allow for stuff like that to happen. But it comes down to if Square's going to do that. You would hope they would, right? I mean, it's a PS5 exclusive, so if any game should take the extra time to optimize, it would be that. Yeah, exactly. FF16 would hit 60 FPS. Exactly. Like, honestly, I would love to see, without any updates or any optimization whatsoever, I would love to see what a PS5 Pro does for FF16. Because that game really struggled to hit 60 consistently. Like, it was not good. Their performance mode was not good in that game most of the time. And I would just love to know, could the PS5 Pro just literally brute force that game to 60 and keep it there? Or beyond 60, maybe, if the frame rate is uncapped. But anyway, I do want to make sure I get back to the topic. I mean, we've stayed within the topic range, but I want to specifically talk about this idea that developers are feeling confused or like unsure of like what is the point of the PS5 Pro? What is Sony doing with the PS5 Pro? Why are they putting this out? And the biggest reason, according to GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring, is because developers are saying we haven't even tapped into the PS5's power yet. My question, in all seriousness, without trying to be rude about it, is then what have you been doing this whole time? Serious question. These developers who are saying that we haven't even been able to actually tap into the PS5, then what have you been doing? We're going to be 4 years into this generation. That's almost half a decade. What have you been doing? And I think that's a fair question to ask. And look, I'm not trying to say that in a snarky way. It's a genuine question. A serious question, like, because maybe there is an answer to that. Maybe their answer is we had to change our engines. We had to make, I don't know. So maybe it's because of development timelines taking too long. But even if that's the case, it's like, here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I'm not concerned about this report that this is what developers are saying about the PS5 Pro. And the reason for it is because the PS5 Pro is going to be inconsequential to them, ultimately. There's a reason why we're not hearing developers out of GDC saying, I'm worried about the PS5 Pro. I'm stressed about this console. I'm annoyed at this console. All they're saying, honestly, it sounds like exactly what a lot of consumers are saying is, but why? And again, we haven't seen Mark Cerny do his presentation. Mark Cerny, I'm assuming we're going to hear from the guy this year. He's going to be the one to come out and say, here's why. And he's not just going to be speaking to us, the consumer, he's going to be speaking to the developer. And that's true. That's true. You're saying Mark Cerny doesn't make anything without asking or talking to the studios first. So who was asked about the PS5 Pro? Yeah, that's true. Oh, and by the way, Titus.
It's dangerous to rely on teraflops as an absolute indicator of performance.
There you go. Perfect timing. But that's a great point. You're saying how anytime Mark Cerny is working on a new PlayStation, whether it be the PS4, the PS4 Pro, the PS5, or the PS5 Pro, he's consulting with developers. Here's what I think. I think Mark Cerny likely consulted with the first-party developers at PlayStation, first and foremost, because it makes the most sense. You know, they're the ones doing the most with this console. So it makes sense. You know, he works for PlayStation, he works for Sony, go talk to the Sony devs first. Then I think he started talking to the second and third-party devs. But I think that there are also a lot of devs that never did get to talk with Mark Cerny. And those could be the devs we're hearing from right now.